Hello, I'm the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Art School and certified instructor Gwilda Wiyaka. Shamanism is ancient healing, divination, and manifestation practice found at the base of all cultures and dating back as far as 50 to 60,000 years. The nature of shamanism, like other practices, has evolved and devolved through the ages. As we left the last era of light, well over 12,000 years ago, the sun moved into a less highly charged portion of the galaxy, and we entered the long dark, a polarized low-frequency time. During the long dark, shamanism, along with everything else, was reduced to a dogmatic adherence to rituals. As we now enter the age of Aquarius, the sun's moving into a higher frequency area of the galaxy. This is charging the leading edge of the sun's heliosphere, causing more luminosity. The increased bandwidth of light is bathing interplanetary space, causing an increase in frequency, supporting unity and enlightenment. While shamanism is often seen as an Earth-based modality, the shamanism practiced the last time we were in a lighter area of the galaxy was a galactic form. Galactic shamanism was used to engineer the pyramids and create the remarkable, accurate Mayan calendar, feats well beyond the cultural base and scientific advancement of the time. As we enter the high frequency of the Aquarian age, this more expansive shamanic form is once again becoming available. It is this ancient galactic-oriented shamanism, dating back to the last age of Leo and beyond, that can aid us during evolutionary times. Galactic Shamanism, Art of the Ancients, Key to Tomorrow, is a series of leading-edge classes designed to aid and empower you throughout these times of transition. All of the classes in the Galactic Shamanism Series employ a circular learning technique and therefore build on each other. It's important to take them in order to get the greatest understanding of the material and achieve a complete skill set. It's my hope that these classes support you on your path to wholeness and enlightenment as we become our potential. Welcome to Galactic Shamanism Lesson 2, Lower World Shamanic Journey. I'm your instructor, Gwilda Wiyaka. Lower World Journey, the second lesson in the Galactic Shamanism series, is designed to bring the ancient magic of the shamanic trance to the people of today. Even if you've taken journey classes in the past, this material will greatly enhance your understanding, proficiency, and deepen your practice. We'll uncover the scientific principles behind the shamanic journey trance and demystify the mysterious. You'll learn how to perform the shamanic journey, to interpret allegorical material, and apply the valuable information to empower your daily life. You'll also gain an entirely new perspective on the way life works and your place and options within it. This class will totally reframe your concept of reality and your power as co-creator of your experience. While shamanism is indeed an ancient form, in more recent traditions it's been viewed as an earth-based practice. But if you trace any nationality back far enough, you'll find an earth and stellar-based shamanic society. While practices, rituals, deities, and beliefs vary from culture to culture, they all contain elements that are remarkably similar. Even locations as isolated as Australia have ancient shamanic practices dating back long before there was contact from the outside world. These Aboriginal traditions have been handed down for generations and contain the same principles found everywhere else on the globe. The cornerstone of all shamanic practices is a measurable altered state of consciousness known as the journey trance. Brainwave studies have been conducted on shaman and shamanic practitioners, myself included, that prove the practitioner is able to consistently and at will drop their brainwaves from the normal day-to-day state of beta to the more dreamlike state of alpha. Through simple ritual, the practitioner can alter their brainwaves in order to access the creative dreamlike state of alpha and even theta without being asleep, granting total recall. The shamanic journey ritual enables the practitioner to engage in an interactive dream, whereby valid information about past, present, and future can be accessed from the world of spirit. This trance state is achieved through various ritualistic ceremonies, usually employing some form of repetitive sound or motion. It was for this purpose that, among other instruments, ceremonial drums, rattles, and didgeridoos were created. Historically, while in this altered state of consciousness, shaman could access guidance in the metaphorical form of spirit guides, animals, trees, ancestors, and a variety of other spiritual sources such as archetypal gods and goddesses. The shamanic trance enabled the shaman to perform physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual healing. Why has this seemingly archaic magical form lasted so long? What does an ancient technique such as a shamanic journey have to offer the people of today? What are those so-called spirits and spirit guides? Is there any science behind the form, or is it merely superstition? If I could only teach one shamanic skill, it would be the shamanic journey. For with this technique alone, one can heal the past, see future alternatives, and co-create reality. Before teaching any shamanic practice, it's important to address the issue of appropriation of ceremony. While these teachings incorporate principles common to most traditions, we're mindful not to appropriate the sacred ceremonies themselves. These ceremonies were built by the medicine men and women of a particular tribe or nation for their people at that time and place. Many native peoples who have preserved and practiced the ancient methods understandably object to societies who first try to destroy their ways, now borrowing freely from them and from their sacred ceremonies. There are many New Age factions taking a little from this traditional ceremony and some from the next, going off half-cocked and calling themselves shaman or pipe carriers, with little or no knowledge or training behind them. Each society and tribe has passed down shamanic ceremonies and rituals particular to their region and heritage for generations upon generations. After repetition for millennia, select lineages from each culture have achieved embodiment of the rituals. The interaction of frequencies generated by these ceremonies and the programmed ability to energetically interface with the quantum level is in the very DNA of the practitioner. These lineages are where the true shaman can be found. Even those of shamanic lineage undergo intense training and sacred energetic activations in order to become pipe carriers and medicine people or shaman. For the layperson to attempt to appropriate power from sacred indigenous rituals with little or no understanding of them, nor the genetic capacity to accurately channel the frequencies they wield, is not only arrogant, but irresponsible in the extreme. However, while we honor where the traditions have come from and are thankful that our brothers and sisters had the forethought to preserve the old ways, ultimately, we honor where it's all going, which is back to center and that which we all share. No one owns the wind. We're all children of the earth and sky. Our very future depends upon us having opportunity to reconnect with the circle of life. It's time for us to come back together. The future of the earth and all who live upon her depends on it. It's not my intention to appropriate the sacred ceremonies of our indigenous brothers and sisters, but rather to use the principles offered by all traditions and life itself to help you build your own ceremonies aligned with your genetic heritage and you as an individual. Through the shamanic journey trance, the original people turned to the earth and stars for information upon which they built their traditions. We can do the same. In Galactic Shamanism Series, you'll learn to design your practice using tried and true universal principles in order to construct what's needed for your personal practice today, tomorrow, and in the future. For this class, you'll need the following articles. They're available on our website store, www.findyourpathhome.com/store. In Touch with Spirit, The Shamanic Journey, Workbook 1 by Gwilda Wiyaka. The Dream Codex by Mary Summer Rain. Animals Speak by Ted Andrews. Journey CD or MP3, either Betwixt and Between or On Wings of Spirit by Gwilda Wiyaka. The following articles you'll probably already have or can easily find to purchase. A bandana, scarf, or eye pillow to cover your eyes while you journey. You'll need a pillow and blanket to comfortably lie on the floor. A journal and a pen. It's always fun to have a fancy journal to record your journeys in, but a spiral notebook will suffice. A magnetic compass to align with the Earth's magnetic field. The one pictured here is the style the Boy and Girl Scouts use for orienteering classes. It's inexpensive and ideal for our purposes. An altar cloth can be any square cloth you find pleasing. You can use a bandana, cut one out of leather, or make your own like the one shown. 18-inch square, give or take, is a good size. You can adjust the size of your cloth based on the space you have available to set your altar and the size of the article that you choose to go on it. Your rattle can be as simple as an egg shaker found at any music store, or as complex as the handmade gourd or elk hide ones shown here. Domestically cultivated California white sage is your best choice. The practice of wildcrafting has diminished sage in the wild, and many indigenous peoples request we do not harvest it. Either loose sage or a bundle is fine. You'll need a fireproof container to burn it in. I use a traditional abalone shell, but any pottery bowl will serve. And here we have the infamous sacred fire stick. This rare item can be found at your local store. Its long design makes it a good choice for lighting a bowl of sage or reaching inside a candle holder to light your candle. For our purposes, the 4 directional markers should be the colors of yellow, red, black, and white. Any stone objects or colored stones are fine. The candle and holder can be of varying sizes and designs, but needs to be the appropriate size for the center of your altar. From this class forward, we'll always start by setting sacred space using some of the principles we covered in Galactic Shamanism Lesson 1, the medicine wheel. The purpose of setting space is to establish a balanced, expansive frequency environment. Sacred space is a vast subject that will be covered in depth in a later class. But for now, we'll perform a single ceremony to establish earth connection to enhance our work. All we do, including taking in information and performing ceremony, is enhanced by a balanced environment that's aligned with the earth and stellar energies. Casting a circle is a term used for calling in the directions: east, south, west, north, and center. Center consists of earth, sky, and heart. The purpose of casting a circle is to consciously bring our electromagnetic field into alignment with that of the planet in order to be supported by the power of nature rather than working against it. As you recall from Lesson 1, the Earth spins around her iron core, which creates an electromagnetic field in the form of a torus. The human electromagnetic or toroidal field is created by the heart pumping the blood in a spiral formation, spinning the red blood cells which contain iron. The human and Earth's electromagnetic fields enter the body through the crown or north pole, respectively, and exits through the perineum or the south pole. When the human electromagnetic field is in alignment with that of the Earth, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of the human aura are supported and empowered by the Earth's toroidal field. This support creates a more expansive frequency range and enhances all we do. Obtaining earth alignment in order to create sacred space is accomplished through ceremony and prayer. The ceremony we'll be using is called casting a circle in the form of setting and activating an altar. To set your altar, first light your sage and smudge yourself, all the participants, the room, and all the articles to be used. This is accomplished by setting your intent that the people and articles are released of any old energies that does not serve and free to take on their new purpose. Next, using your magnetic compass, align the altar cloth with the directions. If your altar cloth has a directional pattern, place north at the top. Starting in the east and working clockwise, place each directional stone or article in the corresponding direction. East is yellow, south is red, west is black, and north is white. Finally, place a candle and candle holder in the center. Like the medicine wheel, the altar is activated using prayer. Start in the east and work clockwise to south, west, and north, shaking your rattle and evoking each direction in turn. Remember, the purpose of the rattle is to help us enter an altered state of consciousness, enabling us to connect with the quantum level and, through our will and intent, interface with the frequencies to be found there. Call in the corresponding direction with the following prayers that are included in your student handout. Prayer to the East. Facing east, shake your rattle and call, Spirit of the East, please join us, sister. Land of dawn, springtime, innocence, childhood, of the element earth and budding things. Please fill us in this space with your gifts and powers that we may share the wisdom of the shamanic way to best serve all concerned. Spirit of the East, please join us. Prayer to the South. Facing south, shake your rattle and call. Spirit of the South, please join us, brother. Land of midday, summer, passion, co-creation, of the element fire and growing things. Please fill us in this space with your gifts and powers that we may share the wisdom of the shamanic way to best serve all concerned. Spirit of the South, please join us. Prayer to the West. Facing the West, shake your rattle and call. Spirit of the West, please join us, sister. Land of sunset, fall, discernment, inward turning of the element water and harvest. Please fill us in this space with your gifts and powers that we may share the wisdom of the shamanic way to best serve all concerned. Spirit of the West, please join us. Prayer to the North. Facing north, shake your rattle and call. Spirit of the North, please join us, brother. Land of darkness, winter, the ancestors and elders, of wisdom and gratitude, of the element air and transmutation. Please fill us in this space with your gifts and powers that we may share the wisdom of the shamanic way to best serve all concerned. Spirit of the North, please join us. Prayer to the Earth. Looking down, shake your rattle and call. Spirit of the Earth, please join us. O Blessed Lady, Mother of my body, planet of my birth, Gaia, land of nurturance and the feminine. Please fill us in this space with your gifts and powers that we may share the wisdom of the shamanic way to best serve all concerned. Spirit of the Earth, please join us. Prayer to the Sky. Looking to the sky, shake your rattle and call. Spirit of the Sky, please join us, land of the star nations, Father of all living things, source of guidance. Please fill us and this space with your gifts and powers that we may share the wisdom of the shamanic way to best serve all concerned. Spirit of the Sky, please join us. Prayer to Heart. Place your hand over your heart, shake your rattle and call. Spirit of Heart, please join us, land of unity, unconditional love, neutrality, and balance. Please fill us in this space with your gifts and powers that we may share the wisdom of the shamanic way to best serve all concerned. Spirit of Heart, please join us. Light the candle and state, it has begun. There's some confusion as to the difference between meditation and the shamanic journey trance. Both meditation and the shamanic journey use a form of discipline to alter brainwaves. Meditation is a process of quieting the mind, an activity that can often result in receiving esoteric information. Journey work trains the imagination to actively access and represent the quantum level of life. While in shamanic circles there's much talk of spirits and spirit world, scientifically speaking, the spirit world alluded to is simply allegorical representation of the quantum level. The mind is by its very nature linear. The quantum level is unified multidimensionality. The quantum level is where all manifestation takes form before presenting in the physical world. Through the shamanic journey, the practitioner can access the quantum level and discern what's taking form. This is divination in its purest form. The difficulty is translating the multidimensional unified information received through the imagination into a form the linear mind can accurately perceive. Information coming from the quantum level through the imagination is represented metaphorically. These metaphors are often in the form of helping spirits, power animals, trees, ancestors, and deities. Now that I've hopefully demystified the spirit world, I assure you we'll uncover more mysteries as the material deepens. For instance, while the helping spirits, power animals, ancestors, and deities are indeed metaphorical, they are at the same time quite real. It's necessary to get a feel for what it's like to be in the journey state of consciousness so we can recognize it when we get there. When I first started learning the discipline, I was expecting a psychedelic landscape and all the bells and whistles of Hollywood. I was doomed to disappointment. Actually, we all experience spontaneous journeys. For instance, have you ever thought of a friend just before receiving a phone call from that very person? Your friend is thinking of you or they wouldn't be calling. When they set their intent to go to the phone and call you, they literally journey to you with their intent. They come to mind because you may have been in a relaxed and somewhat in an altered state yourself and sensed their intent as it entered your personal field. Dreams that later come to pass are also a form of journeying. When we drop into our imagination as in a daydream, we're more likely to receive spiritual or quantum level information that's not bound by time or space. The imagination is the channel through which spiritual or quantum level information comes to us. Our sleeping dreams are yet another form of journey. The difference is in journey work we choose when we enter the dream state, remaining conscious as we come and go at will. Journey information will present itself in our default setting. That's to say, if you're visual, you may see a journey landscape. If you're more audio, you may have a fireside chat with your helpers. And if you're more kinesthetic, you may feel and empath much of the information or simply get a knowing. When teaching the shamanic journey, I'm often asked, am I making this up? I have to answer, why yes, you are. Journey work takes place in the imagination, and from childhood, our imagination has been invalidated. Suffice it to say, imagination, its true purpose and function, is grossly misunderstood. If you can't imagine a thing, you cannot create it. Through imagination, we create the energetic matrix at the quantum level around which all things manifest. Likewise, as I've been explaining or attempting to explain, the imagination is the channel through which we receive esoteric or quantum level information. To learn to journey is to learn to actively and passively imagine. We have to imagine our way into the quantum level. When attempting to enter the journey trance, if we wait around for something to happen without imagining it, we'll be waiting a long time. However, once in non-ordinary reality, it becomes an interactive dream. We choose to go into trance with a particular goal in mind. We use active imagining to get there, but once there, like in a dream, surprising things will happen. These events and symbols, when accurately remembered, journaled, and interpreted, will provide amazingly accurate information we'd not have privy to otherwise. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. Albert Einstein. The shamanic journey takes the practitioner to different levels of reality. When speaking of different levels of reality, we're actually referring to frequency. Shamans are in effect frequency masters. There's a common New Age arrogance around frequency that indicates if we're high frequency, we're processed and spiritual, and if we're low frequency, we're coarse and spiritually inept. This limited viewpoint demonstrates an ignorance around the science behind frequency. For simplicity's sake, let's reframe frequency into positive and negative numbers and view it as a question of balance and mobility. Consider 0 to be neutral and balanced. It's also static. There's nowhere else to go if it's the only number present. If we add a positive 1, in order to remain in balance, we must also add a negative 1. Now we have the mobility to go from positive 1 through 0 to negative 1. The same holds true all along the scale. We can only remain in balance if we add the corresponding positive and negative to our mobility. To go too far either positive or negative without the counterbalancing frequency creates an imbalance that, when taken to the extreme, ends up in polarization and madness. Spiritual evolution is not a matter of higher and higher. It's a question of balance. Spiritual illness results when our overall frequency becomes imbalanced, whether to the positive or the negative. But that's a story for another class, where we'll discuss possessing spirits, demons, and things that go bump. When doing journey work, we're accessing more expansive frequency in order to obtain more complete information. Much like the story of the 3 blind men and the elephant has a trunk, a leg, and a tail. Yet it's none of these things alone, but rather a combination of the 3 and so much more. When we are restricted to ordinary reality and what can be perceived by the mind alone, we're viewing the tail as if it's the entire elephant. In effect, wars are being waged over whether the elephant is a tail or a leg. Journey work expands our frequency mobility and with it our ability to perceive a more complete reality. When quantum level information is accessed and allegorically represented by the imagination, it can then be presented to the mind in a form our mental capacity can work with. Once the metaphors are translated by the mind, our perceptions and mental concepts expand, granting a more complete picture and increased mobility. The spirit world, or quantum level, is unified and infinite with no beginning and no end. With that said, I'm going to chop it up in pieces for us so we can get our bearings. Many shamanic traditions have mapped out 3 levels of reality: upper world, middle world, and lower world. While incomplete and not overly accurate, this concept is very useful in beginning journey work. The mind exists, operates, and perceives in a very narrow bandwidth of frequency. For our purposes, we'll refer to this frequency bandwidth as ordinary reality or middle world. It's also the reality agreed upon by the masses. However, middle world is outside of time and space. In other words, when journeying, we can be in middle world, but the time frame might be yesterday or tomorrow. Middle world is where remote viewing and astral projection takes place. By not being bound by time or space, the viewer can project their consciousness instantly to a different location or another time. In fact, one of the challenges of remote viewing is that a person may know where they are, but not when, or they might know when they are, but not where. Between upper world and middle world is a line of frequency delineation whereby we cross the veil, or enter into a more expansive but still balanced set of frequencies. The same line exists between middle world and lower world. Once across the veil, everything you find there is of a more expansive and balanced frequency, and the information available can be trusted. It's only limited by our ability to accurately translate the allegories presented. There are a few guidelines we must follow to ensure our journeys are safe and accurate. Rule number 1 of shamanic journey work: never travel without your power animal. Your power animal serves as your mentor and guide in unfamiliar terrain. Rule number 2, don't talk to strangers. In order to get to the spirit world, or as Carlos Castaneda called it, non-ordinary reality, we have to first travel through middle world. Middle world is still on the human side of the veil. The veil is a frequency level that spirits pass through when they die in order to cross over. Some human spirits, either not realizing that they're dead or feeling they've led a questionable life and fearing where they might end up, don't cross into the more expansive frequency. In order to cross into a more expansive frequency, we must do what the Native Americans call drop your robes, or process out and release all the damage and resulting patterns we've accumulated during our lifetime. Patterns are compensatory and do not align with our expression, therefore do not accommodate a more expansive and balanced frequency. In the absence of this process, disincarnate people are no more a reliable form of information than when they were alive. Just because they're dead doesn't mean they're smart. Therefore, when traveling through middle world, we don't talk to strangers. Wait until you're on either upper world or lower world to make friends. This brings up all sorts of questions about mediumship and who has crossed and come back and who has not yet crossed. We'll discuss those in another class. So, how do we get there? This class is about lower world journey, so we'll focus on the journey to lower world. Note, lower world is not to be confused with the underworld. The underworld is still in middle world, while lower world is across the veil. First, in order to get to lower world, we need a jumping off spot. This spot can be anywhere in nature that goes underground. A cave, an old mine, the roots of a tree, a river that goes underground, a hot springs, even a city culvert will do in a pinch. It's helpful if you're physically familiar with the location. For instance, one of my jumping off spots is an old cottonwood tree I used to sit under as a small child. Though the old farm has since been razed and the tree cut down, journey work is outside of time and space. I can still travel to my trusty tree and use its roots to enter the lower world. Take a moment and think of a special place you'll use for your jumping off spot. Next, we need to be sure to come and go in exactly the same way. What we're doing in the journey is allegorically mapping our way through the frequency ladder. The journey itself helps us to keep our bearings at the quantum level. While accessing a more expansive frequency can be useful, it's counterproductive to functioning in ordinary reality. At the more expansive frequency, we may find ourselves riding a winged spirit horse. The same principles do not apply when driving a car on a city street. We must be mindful to return to ordinary reality and the rules that apply there at the end of our journey. This is achieved by coming and going in exactly the same way, which results in dialing up or down our level of expansiveness. The journey is directed through the imagination. Build the experience of coming and going in your imagination. This creates a subroutine and will become your practice. When you leave your body, you will imagine yourself sitting up out of your body and joining your power animal who has joined you in the room at your request. When you return, thank your power animal and imagine your spirit self lying back down into your physical body. In order to enter the journey trance, some form of repetitive sound is needed. The most common is journey drumming. The journey drum beat combined with sacred space and the journey technique enables the practitioner to drop their brainwaves to alpha at 7.5 Hz, the same frequency as the surface of the planet. Alpha at 7.5 Hz is a dream trance state, during which the practitioner can engage in an interactive dream. There are two phases to the drumming: the journey beat and the callback beat, which is 4 groups of 7 beats, followed by a rapid drum roll, and then 4 more groups of 7 beats. This is where the required journey drumming recording from the supply list come in. On the recommended CD or MP3s, on Wings of Spirit and Betwixt and Between, there are 4 tracks: a 15-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute, and 1-hour journey. Each has a callback at the end. Until you've had more experience journeying, use the 15-minute track, as performing a longer journey may cause you to lose focus. The 15-minute track is track 4 on either CD. Okay, enough theory for now. Let's take this thing for a spin. First, assume the position. That is, lay down on the floor on a blanket or carpet. Cover yourself with a blanket if needed for comfort. Lay back with your head on a pillow. Put on your headset with a drumming CD or MP3 set to track 4, and cover your eyes with a bandana. We lie on the floor rather than a bed so our body doesn't think it's time for a nap. It's also much more grounding. When the drumming starts, call in your power animal. If you know one of your power animals, call it to you. In other words, politely, in your mind's voice, invite the animal to join you, and then envision it coming into the room and sitting or standing by your side. If you don't happen to know who your power animals are, think of your favorite animal from childhood and work with it. Once the animal has arrived in your imagination, tell it, in your mind's voice, that you're going on a lower world journey and ask it if it's willing to accompany or guide you. Power animals love to help their people, so you don't need to worry about being turned down. Now for the jumping off spot. Bring your chosen jumping off spot to mind. Envision yourself sitting up out of your body and joining your power animal. In your mind's voice, ask your power animal to take you to your jumping off spot. Do whatever comes natural. Fly beside your power animal or ride it. Envision yourself traveling across country as the crow flies in middle world to your jumping off spot. Once you reach your chosen spot, envision yourself offering it tobacco or cornmeal. Respectfully address your spot. Introduce yourself and ask it to help you get to lower world. Again, do what comes natural. Stepping into the trunk of a tree and spiraling down past its roots, walking deep into a tunnel, or letting the river wash you underground. If you find you're passing through dirt, rocks, and roots, you're still in middle world. You'll know you're in lower world when it suddenly opens up into a natural landscape. When in doubt, ask your power animal, are we there yet? Once you've arrived in lower world, call out for a power animal that wishes to be your guide for your lower world journeys. A new power animal may come to you, or the one you're with may indicate they're your guy. Ask your lower world power animal guide for a tour of lower world, then go where it leads. If you don't seem to be getting anywhere, envision yourself walking into lower world with your power animal. Remember, you are making this up, but what you make up is full of meaning that you're accessing from the quantum level. Make sure to take note of the route so you can retrace your steps when you hear the callback beat. Don't try to figure out the meaning. Just take note of all you experience and commit it to memory to journal when you return. At this point, it's very important to be sure the mind takes a back seat and serves as a record keeper only. This is the imagination's gig. When you hear the callback beat, tell your power animal it's time for you to return to middle world. With your power animal, very carefully retrace your path back to your jumping off spot. If this is a new power animal, thank it for the tour and then travel back with the animal that brought you. From your jumping off spot, return to middle world as you came and travel as a crow flies back to your body. The more realistically you create the journey home in your imagination, the more grounded you'll be when you return. Thank your power animal and see yourself lying back down into your body. If the callback ends before you are all the way back, simply continue retracing your steps until you reach your starting point and lie back down into your body. Sit up and journal your experience in detail while it's still fresh. Pause this lesson and embark on your first journey. Safe travels! This journey has been a recon, or a guided tour of lower world, for you to start building a relationship with your power animals, jumping off spot, and to get your journey legs under you. The things you saw and experienced will most likely have been for that purpose, without any deeper meaning. However, it's been my experience that Spirit will slip information we need to us any way it can. So be sure to keep what you've journaled to reference once we learn how to decipher allegories and journey information. One of the most useful shamanic skills is that of divination. Through learning accurately wield this skill, you can obtain amazingly detailed and correct information from the quantum level for yourself or for another. If you're asking a question for another, be sure you have their permission to do so and explain the gifts and limitations of the journey information. You can coach them on deciphering metaphors, which we'll cover later in this class. But when we journey on behalf of another, the allegories are from their energetic field, not ours. So they're the expert on the interpretation. It's important to simply give the person the journey information, but not interpret it for them. Through journey work, you can discover what options are about to manifest and choose where to be in the mix. Find the sweet spot on the wave, so to speak. This is where free will and co-creation come in. Manifestation is not making something out of nothing, so much as choosing where to be in the current of life in order to best align with what you wish to experience. For instance, you may be deciding on where to go for vacation. If you word your question appropriately, given my intent and bottom line, what does it look like if I go to Orlando for my vacation this July 3rd? You may be shown that during that time the weather in Orlando will be lousy and it'll be crowded due to the 4th of July holiday, but you'll have the opportunity to meet some very interesting people who can further your career. At this point, it's up to you to decide if the weather and the crowds are factors that are important to you, or if you're more interested in finding new associates. You can't change the weather or the crowded conditions. They're factors in the current of life to be considered. but at least you're altered to take a raincoat and not plan on privacy or suntan, should you choose to go. This is your life, your choices. Journey information is designed to give you more information upon which to base your decisions, not make them for you. When consulting Spirit for information regarding the management of your life, it's important to realize your life is not predestined, but rather a co-creation between your intention, bottom line, and life itself. The first time I journeyed on a question, it wasn't overly intelligent or well thought out. I was so excited to finally have contacted a spirit helper, I just blurted out, "What's going to happen to me?" Though it was a legitimate question at the time, as I was having some serious health problems, it was not presented in a format that interfaced well with the quantum level, where all possibilities lie. Naturally, my spirit helper answered my question with a question. "What do you want to have happen to you? You're running the show. You tell me." After years of working with seemingly contrary spirit helpers, I finally understood the problem was not with them, but rather with my mindset. Like most of us, I viewed life as a somewhat predestined and myself as a passenger of fate. General belief in our own victimhood is one of the major contributors to our current disempowerment as co-creators of our experience. As it turns out, my spirit helper was right. I was running the show, if unconsciously, and I was unwittingly creating my beliefs. I can't emphasize enough the importance of becoming conscious of our intentions and beliefs as they direct what we manifest in our lives. Make no mistake, we are creating our reality. When asking questions, it's very important to set clear intent and journal it before you begin. Intention is the power that drives manifestation, yet most of our personal intention is unconscious. As a rule, we feel powerless, so we never consciously set our intention into motion. Intention directs the frequency of our toroidal fields, where they interface with the toroidal field of the planet. This enables us to interact with the power of life and manifest the desired change at the quantum level. Finding true desire is the key to manifestation. It's also the key to asking intelligent questions. In Lesson 1, The Medicine Wheel, we learn to use the why exercise to distinguish true desire from created solutions to perceived problems. In review, it goes like this. What do you want? I want to win the lottery. Why? So I have lots of money. Why? So I can buy nice things. Why? So people value me. Why? So they'll love me. In this example, the person thought they wanted to win the lottery, but it turns out that was a created solution. By running the perceived desire through the why exercise, we discover that what they really want is to be loved. Another critical component that was covered in Lesson 1, The Medicine Wheel, is what I call the bottom line. The bottom line defines the parameters within which we want our intent to be met. For instance, you may intend to be wildly successful in your career. However, to do so quickly may take so much time away from your personal life it compromises your marriage. With that in mind, you might choose the bottom line, given I want to live in joy, abundance, ease, longevity, good health, and a healthy, loving relationship with my spouse, and use it as a preface to your intent to become successful in your career. With the bottom line in place, it may take longer to reach your goal, but by the time you get there, your marriage will have had a much better chance of staying intact. It's important to consciously and constantly work with your intent and bottom line, for it directs your process and what you manifest in your world. Before we can accurately ask questions and interpret the answers, it's necessary to reframe the way we view reality. When first embarking upon my spiritual path, I, like many others, was looking for what Spirit wanted me to do. I was quite shocked when I discovered that, quite frankly, madam, Spirit doesn't give a damn. Every time I asked about my life's path, the answer was, what do you want it to be? Because we live in a linear, polarized reality, we tend to think of our lives as linear. We start at birth, follow a supposedly predestined path of things that just happen to us, and end at death. While this is what our lives have become as a result of our belief systems, we actually come with any number of paths to choose from at any given time in any given incarnation. So the question is not so much what's going to happen as, given what's going on in a larger scheme of things, how can I co-create what I want in my life? This approach gives Spirit an opportunity to point out what stands between us and our desire and how we can clear it. Then we have the choice to either clear what's in our way or decide the clearing involves more than the desire is worth. On the other hand, there are limitations. For instance, in this lifetime, I'll never be a tall, black, successful male basketball player. Wrong race, wrong gender, wrong height, and at this point, wrong age. It's simply not in my set. Fortunately, or by design, I have no real passion or desire to be a basketball player. We came exactly like we are for a purpose, one we probably chose. The key is using the why exercise in order to uncover and follow your passion, your true desire, when setting intent and asking questions. In so doing, you'll be following your design and supported by your own nature. When composing a question, we must be mindful of our wording. Given we're coming from a polarized reality, it's not easy to phrase our questions in such a way as to be compatible with the unified nature of the quantum level. Yes, no, good, bad, right, wrong simply don't compute in the spiritual realm. Therefore, it's never wise to ask Spirit for a value judgment. For instance, let's say I'm looking for a life partner, and I want to know whether or not I should marry an individual who has proposed to me. I go on a journey and simply pose a question, should I marry Ed? Note, a word to the wise. Red flag anytime the word should comes up in your journey question. The Spirit says, sure, great idea. So I marry Ed. Ed cheats on me, steals all my money, and abandons me. Naturally, I go on a journey again to take Spirit to task for the bad advice. You told me to marry that jerk. Yes, we did. Look at all the great lessons you're learning about infidelity, betrayal, and abandonment. Maybe, just maybe, that's not how I wanted my lessons. This is where intent and bottom line come in. My intention would have been finding a loving, trustworthy life partner. If instead I would have asked, given I want to live in joy, abundance, ease, and in a supportive, balanced, and loving relationship, what does it look like if I marry Ed? This would have given Spirit the opportunity to show that I would be cheated on, stolen from, and abandoned. At which point I could make my own value judgment about whether or not that was the way I wanted my lessons. The buck stops here. The shamanic journey is designed to give you more information upon which to base your choices, not make them for you. Regardless of what shamanic skills we employ, it's paramount to operate with integrity. The good news about shamanism is it really works. The bad news, it really works, and it's very easy to slip into sorcery. While shamanism works within laws of nature, sorcery appropriates power against natural law. Sorcery may seem powerful for a while, but it has an unpleasant backlash as nature eventually corrects any imbalance caused by the inappropriate manipulation. In order to help avoiding slipping into sorcery, I've created the following guidelines. The 5 laws of ethical shamanic practice are: 1. Shamanism works within natural law. 2. Shamanism is not practiced without permission. 3. Shamanism does not impose energy where it does not belong. 4. Shamanism does not take energy away from where it does belong. And 5. Shamanism does no harm. Bear in mind these laws are not as simple as they might appear. Currently, we all unwittingly violate them on a daily basis. We need to seek understanding of the principles and accommodate them to the best of our ability. There are examples of violations of these laws included in Lesson 1, the Medicine Wheel. Always closely check your questions, intent, and bottom line to be sure that they adhere to these laws to the absolute best of your ability. When preparing to journey on a question, start by journaling the raw question. Bearing in mind what does and doesn't work well with the unified nature of the quantum level, work the wording until it's free of polarization, yes-no answers, and value judgments. Check the question to be sure you're not asking Spirit to make a decision for you. Then run it through the 5 laws of ethical shamanic practice to assure you're keeping it clean. Next, compose your intent and bottom line as it applies to your question. Record your reworked question, intent, and bottom line in your journal. Divination is a journey you can do for yourself or for another. If it's a journey for someone else, coach them on the principles we've covered in this class, helping them with the composition of the question, intention, and bottom line, and running it by the 5 laws. If you're asking a question for yourself, lie down with your blanket, pillow, and headset and cover your eyes. If you're asking the question for another, do the same, but have them lay next to you, touching at the shoulders, hips, and ankles. Or in the case of differing heights, come as close as you can. This puts your electromagnetic field or toroidal field in direct contact with theirs. When journeying for another, you're accessing the information from their field, not your own. You'll go on journey, but the other person is to stay present and alert while you do so. Turn your drumming recording onto track 4 and journey with your power animal to lower world just as you did on the expedition journey. Once you arrive, call out in your mind's voice, "I'm here on my own behalf." Or, if journeying on behalf of another, "I'm journeying on behalf of," and state their first name. "I have a question," given my intent and bottom line, then state your question. If working for another, say, "Sally has a question," given her intent and bottom line, then state Sally's question. Continue into lower world and simply take note of all you see, hear, and feel, and notice what takes place. Do not try to figure out the answers to the question while on the journey. To do so is counterproductive. The mind is to be offline, except as a record keeper, until you return to ordinary reality with the information and journal it verbatim. Then, and only then, engage the mind to decode the journey and any allegories therein. When you hear the callback beat, tell your power animal you have to return to ordinary reality. Return exactly as you came, thank your power animal, see yourself lie down in your body, sit up, and journal your experience. Happy journey! There's a real art to journaling and interpreting a journey. Journey work is much like dream work and, like a dream, is usually full of metaphor and symbology. If you're using a handwritten journal, leave at least one line between the lines as you record your experience. If journaling with a computer, you can move the lines around as needed. Once recorded, go back over the material and underline any animals or any words that may have metaphorical meaning. I like to use a different colored ink for this, or, in the case of a computer, change the color of the font. Once you've underlined the appropriate words in your journal, use Mary Summer Rain's The Dream Codex for interpreting metaphors. For animal symbols, use Ted Andrews' Animal Speak. A note about using references. The books I've recommended are the ones I've used with Path Home Shamanic Art School classes, as I found them to work well when first learning to decode journey work. However, the symbols are from your subconscious or that of the person for whom you're journeying. The books are only to give you a starting point in learning to work with allegory. If what the book says lines up and feels right, go with it. If it does not, set it aside and keep working with the information until it feels right to you. In this, you or the person you're journeying for are the ultimate authorities. Jot down the meanings under each word you've underlined and looked up. Again, using a different color ink or font helps keep things clear. Once you've looked up all the words and recorded them, read through the journey again, referring it back to the decoded metaphors, your questions, intent, and bottom line. You'll be amazed at the meanings that emerge. The shamanic journey is spiritual information and therefore multidimensional. Have you ever read a spiritual passage from, say, the Bible or the Tao, and known exactly what it meant in your life at the time, only to go back later and find it has another equally profound yet totally different meaning at a later date? Journey stories are like that. You can be sure you're only scraping the surface upon first interpretation. I keep all my journey journals, as each time I read them, more wisdom and guidance is to be found. It also serves as a form of validation as I witness predictions come true. Often, I'm shown things in a journey that only make sense as events unfold, providing further validation. When I witness foretold events coming to pass, I inevitably remember the journey and from it obtain guidance as to how to manage the circumstance to my best advantage. That's what I call my "oh, aha, so that's what they were trying to tell me" moments. Over the years, I've learned to absolutely trust the information I'm given, with one caveat. The information is only as good as my ability to decode and understand it from the level of reality I'm in at any given time. Nothing can be received, absorbed, or utilized in the absence of gratitude. For this reason, every shamanic ceremony is closed with prayers of gratitude. Before saying the prayer, take time to really connect with gratitude for all the help, insight, and support you've received during your journey. Return to the altar you set up to create sacred space for your journey work. Connect and really speak to the spirits that assisted you on your journey, including the spirits of the directions, your power animals, your jumping off spot, and the lower world itself. Prayer of release and gratitude. Spirits, I thank you for your surrounds, your protection, your enfoldment, and your guidance, and I now release you. Those of you that wish to stay and further protect and guide me are much welcome and greatly appreciated. In closing, blow out the candle on the altar and state, "It has ended." From setting space and following the 5 laws to laboring over wording, questions, and interpretation, this may all seem like a whole lot of work. But do remember, you're building your practice by creating subroutines. Subroutine, a term usually used in computer programming, will be used here to describe a stepwise series of actions that, when repeatedly applied, forms a unified and seamless routine. As you repeat the lower world shamanic journey, paying attention to detail and performing it verbatim, you'll start to embody the ceremony as a subroutine. Do you remember learning to drive a car? You can bet whoever taught you to drive remembers it with no little amount of PTSD. At first, all the details of driving are overwhelming and difficult to manage. Yet, by sticking with it and following all the rules exactly, you eventually built a driving subroutine that now allows you to multitask and drive without giving it much thought. Now your body automatically performs the individual actions involved without you having to think it through every time you need to turn a corner or parallel park. Subroutines are the key to embodiment and true mastery. When you consider that mastery of the shamanic journey puts accurate and reliable divination into your hands, I would have to say that it's well worth the time spent. So get into the driver's seat of your life and use your journey skills to masterfully navigate your way. Safe travels. Should you find you need additional support on your personal path to wholeness, Path Home offers long-distance shamanic healing sessions performed by Path Home Shamanic Art School certified shamanic practitioners worldwide via Skype or phone. Sign up online, www.findyourpathhome.com, or contact us for an appointment at touchin@findyourpathhome.com. You won't want to miss the Stairway to Heaven educational TV vignettes, bringing insights into the ever-changing high-frequency currents now bathing the planet and affecting us all. The source of vital information for the evolving human being. Watch them on www.gwildawiyaka.com/videos. Another wonderful provision for the evolving human being is Mission Evolution Radio Show. As we leave an age of polarization and inner one supporting unity and enlightenment, we're granted a rare opportunity to evolve. This evolution of consciousness requires a different approach. By bringing together seemingly divergent viewpoints and applying them to leading-edge subject matter, we can uncover a more expansive and evolutionary truth. Mission Evolution Radio Show, hosted by yours truly, Gwilda Wiyaka, is a radio program dedicated to bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. During each episode, I speak with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. In collaboration with these gifted people of service to the world, we weave unprecedented leading-edge information so needed in these rapidly changing times. Mission Evolution Radio Show is aired daily and internationally on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Past innovative episodes can be found on our website, www.missionevolution.org. If you've enjoyed this class, explore our ever-growing collection of classes designed to support spiritual evolution and personal empowerment during our changing times. Stay tuned to www.findyourpathhome.com for our latest offerings. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this, the second lesson in the Galactic Shamanism Series, and that it brings you wisdom and comfort on your sacred path to wholeness. Until we meet again, my friends, may you and those you love forever walk in beauty.
May you walk in beauty. May you walk in beauty. May you walk in beauty. May you walk in beauty. Beauty above, beauty below.